Good morning. My name is Michael, and today we're going to talk about Toe. Toe has been referred to as the theory of everything, but for our purposes, Toe really is the truth of everything. Now that's a pretty bold statement, but there's a reason for that. The reason why science wants to find a theory of everything, because science really does not have any facts. And as much as they like to say that they do, they really don't. They call everything a theory. And by calling it a theory, that means it has to be rewritten. Well, one thing is that God has something a little smarter for man. And that is that God said, "Let us make man in our image." The image of God, male and female, let us make them. So if the image of God is man and woman, then that would also permeate everything else in this world. So when we look at a head, or somebody's head, that is connected to their body, and you really can't have a full person unless you have both the body in total head with the body. Turns out that this part of our body is supposed to be the masculine. And it's only the masculine when it's tied into the feminine. And our feminine parts of our body is our torso. Now the hands, the legs, those two are controlled by the masculine. But the masculine does not consciously control what goes on inside the feminine part of our body. In fact, the masculine is subject to something called the spirit. And the spirit resides inside the feminine part of our body. So now, everybody really thinks that they're in charge of their own destiny. And the more that they think that they're in charge of their own destiny, they create a disconnect. And that disconnect is between the masculine head and really the spirit. The more that the head is charged, the more the individual identifies with the word I. The more the person is heightened by that lust for I, the greater the disconnect with humanity. The monsters of our society, whether they be murderers, business people, leaders of our countries, that cause the most harm to other human beings, are the people that are the most disconnected. And this is a 100% fact. There is no theory of this. There is no possibility. But the greater that you're disconnected from your spiritual body that is inside the feminine, the greater the atrocities that are done. And even in a regular day-to-day life, the more people that we associate with that focus on the I, focus on the will, on choice, on thinking that they're in charge of their destiny, the more problems that person has in communicating with other people in this world. So, the truth of everything, let's get back to the truth of everything. The truth of everything, if you look at the scientist's point of view, which is, again, a theory, they're looking for a formula. Something like this. Something that they can write down and they can have control over. And they can point to. But that's not what God has intended. God did not make the truth of everything a formula. What God did is He made the truth of everything a consciousness. And the consciousness is of God. That is the truth of everything. So, the more that mankind looks for God with a head, to have glory in their head, the more disconnected that they are from the Spirit of God. So if they're disconnected from the Spirit of God, then they will never have consciousness of God. The consciousness of God is the full masculine tied to the feminine under the dominion of the Spirit. This then becomes a whole person. And this whole person will radiate the love, the consciousness, the intellect of God. But because of this disconnect that we have in our world, and we know this because even when Stephen was about to be stoned, he actually said, "Ye stiff-necked people, always do ye resist the Holy Spirit." So they resist the Spirit of God because of their stiff neck. Interpersonal relationships between a man and a woman, you can bring them all back to this point, this disconnect. Because when you're disconnected from your feminine body, you need to recreate the connection that you would normally have with your torso in the world. In other words, a better example for this is someone that breathes. Normal breathing, your brain is telling your lungs to breathe, and your lungs gives feedback to your brain that you're breathing. But if you're disconnected, then that breathing feedback does not exist. So what do people do? They smoke. So when they smoke, what they're really doing is that they're getting the head is getting glory that it is breathing. And here's another one for you. The breathing actually kills the body. So now, because that they're disconnected from their torso, they cannot get the connection here. The Spirit makes them cleave onto the smoke and says, okay, now you're going to breathe. Here's another one. It's even better than that. And that is, when the head is connected to the heart, the head says for the heart to beat, and the heart beats. And then the head gets feedback that the heart is beating. Again, when this is severed, the brain needs to have feedback of a heart. So what the brain now equates in place of the heart is money. Money makes the world go round, and the head gets filled with lust and desire of money. Now remember, this is a consciousness. This is the truth of everything. This same consciousness between the head, body, and spirit is in everything that we have in this world. You can only see this when you're the connected person and God gives you His consciousness. That's why when you hear in the Bible, Jesus is the way. Of course He is. Jesus is the way between the head of man and the Spirit of God. There is no other way. And that we can discuss in other videos. But for now, let's go back to the money. So what happens when people are more disconnected from their heart? Then all their relationships, all their endeavors in life are really all about the money. And the money now is only glory for the head, replacing the head-heart relationship. Because of the disconnect, once again, they have to recreate the same type of feedback, but they have to do it within the head. Another big example is when you hear about humanists, atheists, feminists. These three, for example, all three of these say there is no God. They say there is no God. In one way or another, they do. And what they end up doing is they sacrifice their own body, and now they are not connected to the Spirit of God, which is infinite, by the way. This is infinite. And since their head is not connected to the infinite, then they have to get something else to replicate this relationship. And what these people usually do is they use science. Science is the replication, or the, not exactly replication, but the interpretation of this relationship outside of the body. So science becomes the God. And it's really interesting that the American Atheists, the American Atheist Organization, has a symbol that kind of looks like the atoms swirling around with an A in the middle. With an A. So the American Atheists actually even use the atomic type symbol to make that as their logo. So you can see that even in their formation, that they are, again, fulfilling the truth of everything. Because they are not connected to the Spirit of God inside the body, they have to find something outside the body. And the number one thing that these people that cleave onto the science want is proof. They want proof. They want proof that they can comprehend in the head if there is an existence of God in their minds. But what God said was, He is not going to give your head proof where you can have glory of the eye based on the will of choice. He took that away from man. So God says, no, you are not going to get glory here so that you could choose, because you really don't choose your torso. That is a package that comes together. And again, it says someplace else in the Bible that what God joins together, this is what God joins together. And what does man look to do? Sever the relationship. And because of the severing of the relationship, now everything that is supposed to be natural within the body is outside the body. This is the first of many videos. This is just an introduction of the truth of everything. There'll be plenty more to come. And one of the things that you're going to find is a lot of the videos overlap in information. Because the reason they overlap is God is infinity. That's why man cannot figure out pi, because it's infinite. God is infinite. And as you can see, there's two parts to this 8. They swirl together. And the two different parts is the difference between God and man being tied together infinitely. Just like this connection is the same connection. You can make an 8 like right here. And you could say this is the neck right there. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. And if you like, leave a comment. And there are more videos to come. Once again, my name is Michael Idadaji. And this is the truth of everything.